Hello, the goal of this video is to walk you through a couple hints and tricks that you could use to help you create all of the puzzle parts. I will likely probably make a piece or two very quickly showing you how to use the line tool and the extrude tool to create some various different shapes, and I might even extend this video even further to show you how to assemble those parts together. So, and this is kind of the goal, was to be able to create your puzzle cube in Inventor so that then you can assemble it inside the software here. So what I'm going to do is take us back to the main screen here, and here is the main screen where we can start our part file. So I'm in my projects folder that I've named and created a project folder called Project Cube. You can follow my how to make a project folder tutorial to figure out how to do that, but what I'm going to do is start by creating a part. So I'm going to click Part, and I'm left with basically a blank screen here. The first thing I can do is start a 2D sketch. So I'm going to click Start a 2D sketch, and now I get to choose, well, what plane do I want to start with? So, for example, what I'm actually going to do, maybe actually I'll pull up this, I'm actually going to try to remake, I'm just going to try to remake this black piece, okay? Remaking this black piece. And you can kind of see how it looks like kind of like the letter N or the C tipped over on its edge like this. And so the idea is you want to find a way that you could, if you can, build the part by tracing out all the lines and extruding it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trace all the way around these lines. I'm going to do this perimeter all the way around here on this side, and then I'm going to extrude it back in to create the shape. And that way then I don't have to do any additional extrusions in order to cut holes or anything like that. But I will actually show you how to do that as well. So the idea is for me going to basically remake this black part. Okay, so I'm back here on my part tab here and start a 2D sketch, and it's like, okay, what plane do I want to start creating with? Well, you know, looking at this isometric view of this object, you can see how this left-hand face here of this black piece, this would correspond with this XY plane. So I click Start a 2D sketch. I'm going to click XY plane, and it kind of changes the screen and zooms in. So now basically when I start sketching, I am looking at my part before I've even made it, but I'm looking at the camera this way, in this direction. So back to part. And what I'm going to do is use the line tool. So I left click the line tool, and I'm going to start by using this little origin because it works as a nice little place to snap my line for starters. And I'm going to left click, and now I could drag out my line any distance or even angle, but all of these angles are all 90 degrees, and it's kind of like, you know, made out of cubes. And I'm going to make the assumption that each cube from my puzzle cube, for this particular puzzle, I'm just going to assume is 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. So 1 inch up, 1 inch wide, and 1 inch deep. So I could try to pull my mouse all the way up until I get exactly 1, but that's not very easy. The idea for Inventor is that you can operate the software with a mouse in one hand and the keyboard in the other and quickly punch numbers and things like that. So I'm going to basically start at this bottom left hand corner, and I'm going to go up 2 inches total. 2 inches. See how this would be 1 cube, and then this top left would be 1 cube, and then this is 3 cubes wide, and then another 2 down. So I'm going to go up 2 inches, then over 3, down 2, and so forth. So here we go. Line tool, up 2 inches. So I'm going to pull my line straight up and type in 2. Okay, mouse wheel, and then holding down the center mouse wheel lets me drag around my screen, and then the mouse wheel in and out lets me zoom in and out. And now I'm going to go over 3 inches, or 3 cubes, you can think of it as. Now I'm going to go down 2. I'm going to go over to the left 1. I'm going to go up 1, to the left 1, down 1, to the left 1. Or you can see how it wants to click and finalize on that, with the green. I'll just left click. Now I've created this part. I've sketched out this part. I just hit right click and then hit OK in order to exit out of the line tool. But you can see, look, up 2 inches, over 3 inches, down 2, over 1, or up 2 cubes, over 3 cubes, down 2 cubes. I've created that shape. Now, this is just a sketch, the outline of this shape here. So, now I'm going to do is hit Finish Sketch, mouse wheel though, and holding down the center mouse wheel button, drag around a little bit, and now I'm going to extrude it back. This particular piece, if I look at it, is only 1 cube wide all the way around. So, extrude, and it automatically selects what it thinks I want to extrude, and just by default it happens to be 1, but that's what I want. So if you can see how this arrow is telling us that it's going to extrude out this way, I could change the direction right here. But it doesn't much matter for this puzzle cube piece. And I'll just hit 1 inch, either direction's fine. I can also change all of these values here in this window, in this top left window. Here's the distance. I'll just hit OK. Alright, here is our first puzzle cube piece. We can see how this puzzle cube piece looks to be the same as this black one. Alright, make sure you save the puzzle cube piece. I like to name mine, I'll just say C puzzle part, but you name it what you want. Before I named it black part and blue piece and so forth. You can see all the different names that I've used. So that's all available. Make sure you hit save, because eventually we are going to have all of these puzzle pieces and we're going to assemble them together. So I'll show you how to make one more piece, and remember, the idea is you are making your own puzzle. You had those wooden puzzle pieces and you could glue them all together, and now you could actually assemble or create all of those models. And what we're going to do is, let's just make another one. So I want to make another part. I can click My Home. I can click Part. And now I'm going to create a new part. I'm just going to create a new part, and I'm going to start again on the XY plane. That just happens to be the way I like to try to create my parts. And I'm just going to make a random piece here very quickly to show you something. I'm going to go up 2. I'm going to go over, let's just say 2. I'm going to go down 2. I'm going to go over 2. So I basically have made a 2x2 square. Alright, I could hit Finish Sketch, and I can extrude this out 1 inch. And so I've made a 2x2 block, which could potentially go on this puzzle cube. But look, here's this yellow piece, okay? And this yellow piece happens to be a 1, 2, 3 tall by 1, 2 wide. So if I wanted this to match that, if I wanted this to be the same, we can see that I actually it is in a different orientation, but there's nothing wrong with that, because it's as if I'm looking at it, kind of like this from this view. But I would want to add on a block on the bottom down here. So how I can do that so that the puzzle piece, like this one that I've made, would match that. Okay, I want to add a block on down here. This is how I would do that. I want to add a part. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at the bottom of this part, and I'm going to click Start 2D Sketch, and I'm going to click that bottom face. Alright, now we got to be careful. We just watched how it like rotated up. So technically the area I want to make the part on is this part right here, okay, which in this orientation is this top portion. To add that, I'm going to click this line tool, and I'm actually going to trace out a square. I want over one. I'm going to go down one. I'm going to go over one. And I'm going to go up one. Okay, I've traced out a square on the bottom of that part. Okay, here's that part. Looking at the bottom, there's that square that I traced out. Okay, and I'm going to finish the sketch. And then I'm going to hit extrude, and it automatically selected that part. And I'm going to show you a couple things, two things. One, it's already extruding and adding the part, and that's because of the direction that's been auto-selected. And it's also used this join tool, so it's basically going to glue on an additional part. All right, so I'll hit this check mark, and we can take a look at that. Boom, check that out. There's that part. There's this yellow part. Oops, right here. There it is. Same thing. Okay? Now, let's say I goofed. Let's say that's not actually what I wanted. You want to undo something. There is an undo button up here. Or maybe I accidentally extruded it and added on, but I really wanted to remove it. I can edit these things. See this window over here on the left-hand side? This is called the navigation window. Now, if you don't have that over here, let me show you how you bring that up. There's a View tab. There's User Interface. And there's this navigation bar. Or, I'm sorry, not navigation bar, browser. See when I click that browser on and off? This browser is really nice to have because I can mouse over them without clicking, and it highlights like, oh, this is this piece, and oh, this is this piece. Well, let's say I wanted to edit this last extrusion. I can double click the icon, the little yellow block icon. I just double left clicked it, and it brought back up that extrusion. And it's like, oh, well, what do you want to do? Well, I could change the length of it if I wanted to. That's not what I want. Let's say I'd said I wanted to cut. Well, let's change the direction. And let's change this to cut. Now, look at this. I changed the orientation a little bit to make it a little more obvious. Now it's going to literally cut away that part. It shows it in red. It's going to remove it. I'll hit OK. Boom. That part just got chewed away. So this is how you can add and subtract and cut away on pieces so that you can ultimately make some of these puzzle pieces. So right now your goal would be to build all of your puzzle pieces that would make up your cube. Okay? Create all those parts. Make sure you save all those parts. This would be, I'm going to call it elbow puzzle part. Okay? Save all those parts. And once you have all those parts, you'd advance to this next portion, which I'm going to show now in this video. I'm back at my home, and the idea is that we're going to assemble the cube, like as if you would assemble your wooden cube together as an actual puzzle. You're actually going to assemble this one digitally. So this is how you do that. You're going to use this part of Inventor called assembly. So select assembly, and you have another blank screen. Perfectly fine. what we're going to do, excuse me, is click place, and it brings up a little navigation window, and it's like, oh, what do you want to place? All right, well, just because for continuity here, instead of using all my puzzle pieces that I've used before to create my completed cube, I'm going to place the two parts that I just showed you how I modeled. So here's one. I'm going to click open on it, and it automatically pasted in there, and it's like, oh, do you want to paste another? Oh, no, I don't. I'm just going to hit escape to close that out. Okay, go back up to place, select the other part, like select the next puzzle piece. Now this one doesn't automatically place. So it's like, where do you want to place it? In truth, it doesn't matter. Just place it anywhere with the left click, and you can hit right click and hit OK, or you could hit escape to get out of that. Now once you have all the puzzle pieces all laid out in here, you're going to assemble the cube. And this is how you do that. This is how you glue parts together. You are going to use this tool up here called constraint. When you click constraint, a little window pops up here. It says place constraint. Now for this part of this project, we're just going to use this mate type under the assembly tab. So it should all automatically, that's what it first selects. And the only option we have here are these two different solutions, mate and flush. So flush is when you bring two objects up to the same height, like two faces of an object. So if you rub your hand over the top of them, they would be smooth. And mate is like gluing two faces together. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a combination of these two. You'll likely either mate, flush, flush, mate, mate, flush, some type of combination between those two in order to properly get your puzzle pieces to go together. And you more than likely will have to do 3 constraints on each. Like when you join two pieces together, you'll need 3 constraints in order to get them to stay together. Alright, now I'm going to hit escape just to close this window for a second, and I'm going to left click and just drag this guy around. And sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to like pre-line up some things how you think you want them to go together. But you know, like let's say I want this one to rotate around and slide inside my C. Alright, so I want it to go inside that slot. Now here's what we can do. We can actually go to the sorry, I was on the same tab I needed to be on, the assembly tab. Okay, no additional tab here, and there's this free rotate button right here. So I have selected this little elbow piece, and I'm going to click free rotate, and it pops up with this little interface, and I got this like orbit tool. So I could rotate around this part on all these different axes as I want, or I can free rotate and just grab it and pull it around. So just so to help you visualize it a little bit, I'm hoping to put this part in like that a little bit. So that's not exactly perfectly in there, but maybe you can get the idea how this is going to go in there, into there like that. So I want it to glue in there like that. All right. Here's how we're going to do that. Now, you see how this wants to go in there. What I want to have happen is I want this face of my C part to mate with this face. So I'm going to use constraint, and I'm going to use mate, and I'm going to click the two faces. I want this face. That's my first click. And notice that originally this one was highlighted, now this one's highlighted. It's like, oh, what are the two different selections? So I clicked my first one. Now I'm going to rotate the camera around, and I'm going to click the second one. And I'm not sure if you'll hear this, but you might, if you have the sound on your computer, you might hear like a dink. That's a good noise. That means they kind of like glue together, and it's happy with that. Dink. Now, that happened, but it hasn't been saved. To save it, you have to hit apply. Alright. Now, let me show you something. I'm going to hit escape to get out of this constraint tool. Now, okay, Now, it is a little misleading, but basically those two faces are glued together. I can slide my part up and down, and I can slide my part left and right. So I need to constrain it even more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain it up and down. Two ways I could do that. I could mate this face with the top side of that C within there, or I'm going to use the flush constraint, because a lot of times it's, if you can not have to wiggle the camera around, that can be kind of the easiest sometimes in order to get this done. So I'm going to hit constraint, and I'm going to use flush. So I left click on that tool. Now I'm going to click the two faces that I want to bring to the same height. I want this top face of my elbow and this top face of my C. Click, doink. I hit apply. I'm going to hit escape again just to show you. Now I'm trying to go up and down with my mouse, but it is not allowing me to do that. Now this part is only allowed to slide side to side. So now I need to keep that from happening. To do that, what I'm finally going to have to do is another mate. I'm going to mate this face of the elbow in there with, it's going to be kind of tough to show you, that part. Yeah, this is kind of tough. Okay. This part right here with this part of the elbow. Okay? So, constraint, mate, this side of the elbow. Oopsies, sorry. With this side of the C. It makes the click noise. Make sure you hit apply to save it. And check this out. If I grab either one of these pieces, I'm holding the left mouse button on them, they will not move from each other. They are stuck together. Mission accomplished. And now take your next puzzle piece in and essentially constrain it to the ones you've joined together. You're going to build your puzzle cube in Inventor. Now, I didn't show you how to add colors on any of these things, but I can maybe jump very quickly to do that. I just jumped back to one of my parts here, elbow puzzle part. I left the elbow open, and I used that elbow in here. And up here is this color wheel. So one quick way is you can change this generic type, and you can just like select various different things. It just automatically like, oh hey look, this is silver. These are just like generic. Here's some generic plastic that's see-through rubber, for example. Okay, if I hit save on it after I made that color change, I should be able to jump back to my assembly and check that out. It automatically updated the color of the elbow part. Well, let me go back to my C puzzle part. Let me change that. Generic. Let's change that to something kind of crazy. No, that's not crazy. No, I just did rubber. No. Ooh, glass. That's kind of neat. Iron. Where's gold? That one was pretty cool. Where did gold go? There it is. Gold. Hit the save button. Go back to our assembly. And there they are. So having different colors on your puzzle pieces can make it a lot easier to see the difference between each one of the faces and things like that. So I encourage you to select different colors. Now, I'll be honest, there's a color wheel up here option. I'm skipping over that because you can very quickly, easily just select a material and get different colors. But there is a color wheel that allows you to completely change the color. But that would be kind of more appropriate for either playing around with yourself, just, you know, you've got time, see what you can do with it. Otherwise, if you have any more questions, I can try to make another video for you. All right, good luck.